Vinny, all my love from South Philly. Mwah. Peace out, pal.
Vinny from South Philly.
You're watching Vinny from South Philly.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Vinny Presents. And today, originally from Iowa, by way of Wisconsin, he's a director, he's an actor, he does many things, also involved in the music industry. He is Austin Galante. Austin, welcome to the show.
Hola. How's it going?
Great to see you. Great to have you on, my friend. And, you know, we connected online, which is always a beautiful thing where I find many of my guests. But great to have you on, Austin. Tell us a little bit about yourself, man.
I'm a actor, writer, director. You know, I do a lot of stuff. Music, production, vocalist. I don't know. You name it. I do it.
That's the beauty of being a one-man show. You do a little bit of everything, which I can identify with. But it's a good thing. It makes you... It gives you an appreciation for all the different vocations out there.
Yeah, I think it helps me be able to communicate with other aspects of filmmaking. You know, I know what's going on and I can see what may need to happen or understand when another filmmaker or crew or whatever is talking. I know what's going on, so that's helpful, I guess.
Absolutely. We'll just lightly touch upon the music background. It looks like you work with some pretty interesting people. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I've been making music for 20 years probably. But yeah, I've been making music for a long time, and I've started out in a rap group with like, I don't know, 10 other rappers, and it was called The Committee. That was a very long time ago, but we would do shows together. It's kind of like a big, I don't know, Wu-Tang type thing, just a bunch of different rappers, different styles and stuff. And that's kind of how I got started. I was already making some music on my own, and then I met a man named Juan Hooks, and him and I have been friends for the last 20, 25 years, or whatever it's been. He sort of put that group together, and then we ended up moving to a place called Iowa City, Iowa, where we started a band called Dad Fathers, and we ended up doing that for about 10 years or so, 8 years, I don't know. And we toured around the country. We got to open up for a lot of different groups. Cee Lo. Ugh, I'd have to pull up like a bio probably to remember them all. I mean, we played Warped Tour 1 year, so we got to play with metric shit ton of bands, which was a lot of fun. Humpty Hump, I don't know. Rick, Rozelle. So we got to meet a lot of people and do a lot of shows with them. And once in a while, later on when I started producing more or getting into producing, I started trying to see about getting some of the acts that we played with or met and recording songs with them. So Juan actually went to high school with Sid from Slipknot, number 0, the DJ, and so he scratched on some of our earlier stuff that we made a long time ago, and then played with Cee Lo, ended up getting him on a song, got Kid Tre on a song. Recently, for this movie, I have KRS-One and Snoop Dogg on a song, on a couple different songs that I produced. So they're on the soundtrack for the movie. So that's kind of cool. I kind of enjoyed that.
Excellent. And so how did you transition then into the film industry?
Well, we moved out to LA and started playing some shows out there. A manager was out there, and she was a music supervisor for films. That's what she does. Media horse. I'm trying to remember what the name of, I think that's what it is. But anyways, was being introduced to some film people and was, applying, doing a lot of auditions and, got an agent out there. I did, I don't know, a handful of commercials and a couple small acting bits and a lot of extra work, but I got to see, a lot of sets and, go to the big studios and be there and check things out and watch how things worked. And it was just kind of a fun experience to learn, from people who were, spending millions of dollars doing it. Obviously, it's a different animal when you're doing it on your own for very little money. But I started shooting music videos then. Well, I started doing photography. I was still, in the band and doing photography and learning that. So I was learning camera aspects and learning lighting aspects of shooting photography. And then I started doing music videos, which then I was able to apply lighting techniques to that and knew a little bit about how to use cameras. And so then, obviously music videos are oftentimes smaller, right, than shooting a movie. It's much shorter and much less intensive. There's not sound and so forth, but it still gave me a lot of practice in all the aspects of production and shooting and so forth. So that's kind of how I got my start doing that. And then I met some people who were doing film here in Madison and started doing some music videos with them that were like a little bigger production and a little more narrative, I guess, storylines and more scenes and more locations that sort of went along with the movie. And then shortly after that, decided to just shoot a movie. So.
And listen, I get it, man, because you start being around that environment, it's just infectious. It makes you want to jump in. Tell us what you have coming up.
I just finished a movie called Sanguine Teeth on a Driftless Road, and it is a horror comedy movie about 4 vampires that get together for a weekend road trip to a cabin in the woods. And yeah, it's just the dark humor, satire, irony, funny 4 vampires going on a road trip, right? Like that already lends itself to some humor, but it's a 2 hour and 14-minute movie, and I know people will probably see that. I know I had a couple interviews where the interviewer, got a chance to watch the movie because they saw that 2 hour and 14-minute runtime, right? And they're like, damn, an indie movie, and I think we all probably have that feeling whenever we see an indie movie and it's real long and we're like, am I going to be able to do this? But I don't know. They seem to enjoy it. They seem to make their way through it. And one of the guys called it an instant classic. So I'm just going to run with that.
Well, that's a good sign, and it's worth the investment for those that are watching out there. It's, I know we have all been, attention span has all been greatly decreased in these last few years, but it's well worth watching good indie films. Take your time, watch them, and really get into them. It's worth the watch.
Yeah, I say, it should be. I'm hoping the plan is that it'll be streaming sometime in the next 3 to 4 weeks. That's what I'm currently working on. And when it is available and you see it on a streaming platform, just give it 20 minutes. If you think it sucks, shut it off. Like, I think you're gonna think. A lot of people will think it's funny. It's crass. It's rated R, so like, don't put it on when your kids are in their room. That won't go well.
Right.
But yeah.
And so now, how long did it take for you to shoot? And did you do it in Wisconsin?
I shot the majority of it in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee, Madison, and a real small town called DeSoto, Wisconsin. And then we also shot some scenes in Iowa and in Minnesota, just because the locations that I needed and, what I was able to find or got access to is where I had to go shoot it. What was the other part of that question?
So how long did it take for you to shoot it?
How long? Well, started in, I think, June of 24. I had a few shoots that were just like, a day here and a day there. And I probably had 6 maybe of those. And then we did one stretch where it was just 6 days at this cabin and we had to get everything shot so a bulk of it has the same characters in it. And I have actors in the movie from like LA and Portland, Oregon, Austin, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia, Chicago, Minnesota, Iowa. So like these people are from all over. They're not all just from here. There's probably 10 or something local Wisconsin actors in the movie as well. But for this part, there were at least 4 maybe actors from like out of state, and we had to shoot it all, during those 6 days and get it all because I don't have the money to fly them back for reshoots. So, and the fun joys of indie filmmaking and budget constraints as indie filmmakers, I'm sure not all of them.
Yeah, and that's a tough thing, man. Especially with flying people from out of state. That's a tall order, man. So congratulations. All right, what can we expect in the future? Any future goals? Anything you're looking to do? Any other projects you have in mind?
Yeah, future goals. Well, I hope to get this movie seen. I'm planning on doing quite a bit of press. This movie, Sanguine Teeth, Sanguine Teeth on a Driftless Road, has Charlie Mack. He just won Golden Ticket on Kill Tony. That should be airing this week on Kill Tony. And Jason Horton, the horror movie producer, who it will be releasing his movie A Hard Place next week. He's in the movie. We have a scene together. It's pretty funny. It's his first time like acting as, an actor in someone else's movie.
I'm a big fan.
He's
I'm actually a big fan of his.
yeah, he's a great guy. He stayed at my house for a few days and we just like hung out, had bonfire and stuff, and shot the part. It was fun. But the scene turned out really well. I was nervous that, like, I hope it turns out good, but it's been getting mentioned by people that they think it's pretty funny. So that's good. And so, it's got a few people like that. Jason Rouse is in it. He's an internationally touring comedian who's going to be playing Copenhagen here in the next week. And I'm hoping to just get the word out about that. And that's what I'm like working on right now. But then I'm also in pre-production and have started shooting, which I will never do again. But started shooting the next movie called What Have We Won, starring Robert Lasardo. It's a crime thriller comedy, I guess. We'll be shooting that through the summer, and then we've got like a big 7-day stretch, I think, where we'll be on a location for 7 days shooting a bulk of it. And there's some other stuff, but that'll be getting edited, through the winter and early spring next year. So hopefully I'll be releasing that next year. It was too much. It was a tall order. I shouldn't have done it. I got kind of convinced by a friend to like do this thing and then got into it. Then it was just too quick. I shouldn't have, but I'm in it now. So I know I'm doing the end of this movie and the beginning of this movie. I know there's other producers out there who can feel that pain.
Absolutely. Now, briefly, before we let you go, any tips for newbies that are starting out in filmmaking? Maybe do you have any tips on fundraising, which is always an interesting question, but any tips on trying to raise funds when you're really starting from zero?
Well, I mean, everybody's situation is different, right? There are people out there who have access to friends or to, maybe they come from a family who has a decent amount of money. So they could just be like, hey, Uncle John, would you throw 10 grand in on my project? You know what I mean? Like, so everybody's situation is different. So I can't say the exact same thing, but I would say you've got to have some skin in the game. You've got to put something of your own in, right? I know a lot of people say like your goal is to not shoot a movie with your own money, but I think starting out when you don't have any like real track record, or maybe your track record's a couple shorts or something like that, then you're probably going to have to put some skin in the game to show some other people that you believe in your project. There's a million filmmakers out there, and we've all seen.
Or you can even do like our friend Jason Horton, who does an excellent job, online fundraising on Indiegogo. So that's always an option.
Yeah, and I think
it's not easy.
It is not easy. I just did some of that for this next movie, What Have We Won, with Robert Lasardo, and I'm kind of a one-man band. I've got a couple friends that help with a little bit here and there, but like I just can't afford to pay people yet because there's just not enough funds. If I got to make a choice, like what is it I'm going to spend the money on? Is it going to be actors that like I have my eyeball on this person, whatever, like I may have to fly them in. So then there goes some money for that, whatever. Like, is it going to be like, a monster suit and it's going to take up a bunch of money? So you just have to make a decision. But yeah, sitting there and doing the Indiegogo type thing, it is, when you're doing it, is just like you're working on it all day and reaching out to people and emails, and it's terrible. But I didn't have time to really like spend a month or 2 months just doing it because I'm still finishing the last movie and I was in the middle of editing it and I still had to do the soundtrack for it. And then, now I'm at the point where I'm like doing all this stuff for the logistics of distribution. And so it's hard, in my position, because I'm kind of doing most of it myself. And I just don't have the money to pay somebody. I know like people are like, you need to have a producer and an AD and, whatever, all these things. And it's like, yeah, that sounds great, but I don't have the funds yet for it. So I either do it or it doesn't get done. Because I don't know, like, I just hate being like, hey, I'm doing this thing. You want to come work on it for free. Like, who wants to do that?
Trick is you just got to feed them well. Well, listen, Austin.
That's what I hear.
That's right. Make sure you feed them well. Austin, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Anybody's watching this, please make sure that we're going to have some links in the description box. Make sure you're following Austin. Make sure you're tuning in and supporting his projects. Reviews are always big, man. So please, you out there, make sure you're always leaving a review whenever you watch a movie, especially with independent filmmakers. It's really important we do that. And also, if you haven't followed me and subscribed, please subscribe to my channel, Vinny Presents. Always appreciated. Our guest today has been Austin Galante, my man. Always great to have another indie filmmaker. I wish you all the best.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
All right,
Appreciate
see you
having me.
soon.
Yeah. Take care.